The sanctity of human life is under assault. Find out how and what you can do about it in this edition of Life Matters with Brian Johnston. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on the right to life, on the culture that has emanated from that singular idea, and on the battle of ideas that is now raging regarding protecting innocent human lives. This is an incredibly important idea, an idea so important that America's founders put it in our establishing documents. The right to life is a gift we've all been given, not by the government, but the government does have a duty to protect that right for each of us to be alive. It's a gift given by our Creator. I didn't make that up. Our founders didn't make it up. They merely asserted it. And now it's our turn to make sure that our government continues to protect the lives of those that can't protect themselves. You and I know that it's being violated, and it was being violated even at our founding by slavery, and it was a sad thing, but it was known. But in order to move ahead, they established the principle, and they wanted to make sure, as Lincoln said many decades later, they wanted to make sure they had the basis on which to protect the lives of those who weren't yet protected. And they were able to do that. Now that the Supreme Court has ruled that in Roe v. Wade, that child should not have any protection anywhere in the United States, that's an assault on the right to life. It's under direct assault, and that means all of us are under threat. That the right to life isn't an issue only because we like babies. It's an issue because this is an innocent human life. That's what's happening here. And if we fail to recognize that, we fail to recognize the gravity of this issue for our day. I'm going to talk today about LifeFest Film Festival. Many of you know about LifeFest. We talk about it regularly. And in the first weekend of May, every year, we have a film festival in Hollywood, California, at the Raleigh Studios screening rooms. The Raleigh Studios were the original Chaplin studios. He's the guy that kind of got it going in Hollywood and made Hollywood the place to shoot. So this is a storied and legendary film studio, and we use it as our base in Hollywood because our goal is to restore Hollywood to its former glory, which isn't just blood and guts and scary entertainment, to assert the stories of human life. And that's the reason we like movies. We won't spend a lot of time right now talking about the principles of LifeFest, but do listen to the program. If you go to the podcast, go to the LifeFest program where we talk about storytelling and life. And it's important to realize that telling stories is the way to get things done. Today's program, I'm going to spend a little time on a very important film that came out in 2019, Unplanned. It's the story of Abby Johnston and how she worked for Planned Parenthood, became one of its most important local managers in the state of Texas, was an honored employee, and she had a change of heart. And Unplanned is a dynamic story. I'm going to borrow a little bit from our friends at Breitbart News. Alex Marlow is the host of the Breitbart News program, and he interviews Ashley Bratcher, who starred as Abby. And this is a very important interview, and they touch on several things. Right now, they're going to touch on the nature of storytelling. I really like that, because that's the reason we started LifeFest, is to make sure that our culture is hearing stories that build up and motivate and educate and give insight. And again, listen to our podcast on LifeFest, and you'll understand why we exist, to affirm the dignity of the human person, and especially the seemingly insignificant life. Very important principle in good storytelling. But right now, we're going to join Alex Marlow of Breitbart as he interviews Ashley Bratcher, and in this segment, they're going to talk about storytelling.
So you think you're going to a movie, you know the movie's about someone who's a Planned Parenthood representative. That's all you know. What are your politics like at the time?
Well, before I knew Abby's testimony, I was middle of the road. I considered myself pro-life, but I didn't think that I had the right to tell anyone else what to be or what to do. And after I heard her story, I really finally kind of understood, and it sank in, and I started doing more research about when does life begin? What is the science behind it? And I developed a firmer stance that, no, there's a life that we're not protecting, that we're allowing to be innocently killed in the United States.
So, and this is remarkable because this is the power of Hollywood. And so I'm from Hollywood. I'm from Los Angeles. And Andrew Breitbart, our founder, who passed away 7 years ago today, he was someone who was from Hollywood, was a knee-jerk liberal. He was always pro-life because he was adopted. So that was he had no choice. He always said, I can't even debate it. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this topic. And the power of storytelling we've such great arguments. We're not as good at the storytelling as the left is. And so you're a part of this now. So you're a part of, like it or not, a major effort to try our hand at this sort of storytelling that the left has perfected.
Yeah, I completely agree. I heard a quote a couple of weeks ago that says, storytellers are the ones that can change culture, not lawmakers.
That's right.
And I think that's so incredibly true, especially with putting out a good film that gets attention and starts a conversation that can potentially shift our culture like it already is right now.
Very important principles regarding storytelling and the nature of getting the message of life across. The next segment we're going to talk about is a very important one for Californians in 2019 because the state of California is considering what I believe to be the single greatest expansion of the abortion industry in our nation. The state of California is proposing through SB 24 to distribute RU-486, the powerful abortion drug, to distribute that at every state college and university campus. That's Senate Bill 24. I'm alarmed by the number of people, even pro-life people, who do not understand what RU-486 is. They think it's the same thing as the morning after pill. It most certainly is not. This is an extremely dangerous drug. It will risk women's lives. We'll go into it in a little bit. But when we return, you're going to hear an excerpt from the interview that Alex has with Ashley Bratcher as she talks about the RU-486 experience that she depicted, because it's exactly what Abby Johnston went through before she left Planned Parenthood. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to Life Matters.
Life Film Fest is the creative outreach in Hollywood that's changing Hollywood and the culture. There's many films you've already seen that actually had their start at Life Fest in Hollywood, their premiere. But more than that, we work with people throughout the industry who want to creatively bring the message of life. Not just hit you over the head with it or preach to you about it, but creatively impact the culture so that hearts and minds of our fellow citizens understand the depth and the breadth and the warp and the woof of what the right to life really is. Be part of Life Fest Film Festival and make a difference.
Every life does matter. Every life is significant. Find out about the exciting cultural change impacting Hollywood. Go to lifefilmfest.com. And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
So welcome back. We're talking about the movie Unplanned. As I mentioned before the break, we're going to talk about RU-486. We're going to talk about it more. You've heard this program. We've described this very powerful drug that actually attacks the woman's body first, so she no longer allows herself to be a mother. It's a chemical attack on the mother to cut off nutrition for the child in her womb. It's a terrible thing. And then she takes a second regimen, which expels the child. Sometimes the child's still alive, but that woman is alone usually when she takes it. It's a terrifying experience. And right now you're going to hear Ashley Bratcher talk about the film Unplanned and the terrible experience of having to go through depicting an RU-486 abortion.
From day one until the very last day of shooting, I'm pretty sure I cried every single day.
Oh
I mean,
God.
it was just required of me because I was filming these really intense emotional scenes. And Abby nearly died from her RU-486 abortion, where she did the chemically induced abortion. And so that was a grueling process, not only because it took 8 hours to shoot one day, and then we went into overtime. So I've been crying for 8 hours all day, one day. And then they're like, okay, we got to stop. We're going to come back and pick it up in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get through this? Because it was like that every single day. And because I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, I leaned into my faith. And every morning I just woke up and I prayed. And before every scene, I just prayed and I thought, God, give me strength to get through this because I can't do it without you.
So RU-46 is not a pleasant drug. It's not the morning after pill. By the way, the morning after pill is a very different entity. It is taken only right after coitus, having sex. And if it's against the woman's will, by the way, the morning after pill is actually in every police station in your state because it's part of the rape kit they use. And in principle, it's designed to prevent the sperm and egg meeting. And it's a very basic design to try to prevent that chemically. Now, when it's taken at a particular time, we don't know. You probably know this about the birds and bees. I hope you do. That every time a man and woman have sex, that doesn't mean someone's going to get pregnant. In fact, a woman is actually fertile in just a couple of days of every month. There's only a few day window where a woman is very likely to get pregnant. So the morning after pill is to prevent the onset of pregnancy. That's not RU-46, friend. RU-46 is only taken when mom knows she's very pregnant. She actually is at least 2 periods along. It has to be taken when that child is there swimming around, and it's designed to kill that baby. It's a terrible, terrible thing. As I mentioned, there's a bill in the California legislature. That bill is SB 24. That's going to hand out RU-46 to every college student and university student that goes to a state college or university in the state of California. It's an incredibly dangerous proposal, but its goal is to expand the abortion industry, and that's what they want. They simply want to expand abortion because people don't understand what it is. As I said on RU-46, I have pro-lifers that don't know what it is, actually. There are Christians, and this next segment from this interview that Alex Marlow from Breitbart has with Ashley Bratcher and talking about the movie Unplanned, they make the point that Planned Parenthood aims its services at Christians. Christians are so poorly educated, so illogical, and I have to tell you, my experience is for many Christians, their own theology and their own scientific understandings of life and what really happens in life, it's really geared more to their emotions. And emotions are easily manipulated, and Planned Parenthood knows how to do that. And in the film Unplanned, you see that they actually gear themselves towards using weasel words and slippery language so they can convince even Christians, abortion's okay. And it's extremely deceitful. And this is what you're going to hear now from Alex and Ashley.
Planned Parenthood, Abby talks about a little bit about how they try to sell Christians. That in particular is that you and I are both Christians, and there's a lot of Christians in the audience, that they try to make a sales pitch. They give you the talking points so that you can convince Christians that abortion's okay.
Abby actually said she went to a church during her time working there where she was praised for being in Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
And it was just so deceitful. But another shocking statistic is that about 60% of women who have abortions identify as Christian.
Wow.
So it really is an issue within the church, too, that we're not talking about, which is really worrisome.
It is worrisome, and I go to church weekly, and it's Catholic church, so the abortion does come up, probably more than any other political issue, but it's not a constant. It's not a constant thing you're hearing about week in and week out.
And you just heard from Ashley how Christians are geared, and she herself admits that even before she made the film, she considered herself pro-life, but you may have heard this from other people. I wouldn't want to get an abortion, but who am I to deny it to someone else? What that means is you don't understand what this is really all about. You're like somebody in the 1850s saying, well, I would never own a slave personally. But who am I to deny it to those people who need slaves for their business? Who am I to say slavery is wrong? You do not understand slavery. You're not against slavery when you say that. You're pro-choice. By the way, again, The Lincoln-Douglas debates, literally Senator Douglas uses that term. He personally, as a Christian, was opposed to slavery, but he wanted slave owners and the states themselves to have the choice to be a pro-slave or anti-slavery state. He was just pro-choice on slavery. If you don't understand what this debate is about and the human lives involved, then you're going to be easily moved around and pushed around. And this movie is very powerful. The movie's Unplanned that we're talking about. We're going to have one final segment. And in this segment, I think it's very, very powerful because Ashley, and she's being very honest, but she found out, as you're going to hear, that she came within moments of being aborted. Literally, her mother got up from the abortionist table. And that's why Ashley Bratcher lives, because her mother wouldn't go through with it. A very powerful story.
I think people who might not be familiar with my story, the most shocking thing that I learned happened 4 days after I had arrived on set. As I mentioned before, they offered me the role. I had 4 hours, 5 hours to get out to Oklahoma. Yeah. I hit the ground running. I also have a child. I have an 8-year-old little boy. So my son and my husband and my sister knew because I needed her help. Yeah. And they were the only ones who knew that I had left for the project. And so when I got to Oklahoma, it was straight into pre-production. I had 52 wardrobe changes. They were coloring my hair. It was insane. So the 4th day that I was there, my mom finally called me. I'm like, I haven't told my mom where I am. And so I wanted to explain to her what I was doing, but I was very cautious because my mom had told me she'd had an abortion when she was in high school. And so I wanted to make sure that she didn't feel like I was judging her or condemning her with this movie, that this wasn't some movie that was just judging all women who'd had abortions or abortionists. And I knew that she'd be emotional when I started talking about it, but as I went on to describe everything, she just completely lost it. I mean, she's on the phone and I can just feel her spirit crushed. And she said, Ashley, I need to tell you something that you never knew before. What you don't know is that when I was 19, I was in the clinic for the second time, and I had been called back by the team, and I went in. I was on the table in the clinic, and a very pregnant nurse came in and examined me, and I got really sick, and I knew that I couldn't go through with it, and I got up, and I chose to have you.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and I never knew that. I mean, I never, ever knew that.
Whoa.
Jumping into this. I had already accepted this role to play Abby Johnston, who is such a pro-life advocate. I mean, she's really well known in the pro-life world, and she's fighting
But
for
you
life.
almost weren't here to be able to play it.
I was intended to be aborted, yeah. And it's all because my mom just had this feeling. She got sick, and she didn't think she could do it. Yeah, it was crazy. So I'm on the phone with my mom, and she tells me that, and I'm in the middle of having my hair colored. I'm in a salon. I mean, I literally have. I don't know if you've ever seen women in salons, but I had aluminum foils together.
I've been witness probably more often than I'd like.
It is, it's a funny.
It's a funny look for a couple hours.
So then I'm sitting there in a salon as I'm talking to her, looking like a crazy person, hysterically crying, and everyone's like,
I got to tell you, just to full disclosure, I'm having a hard time keeping it together right now, and we just met. So I can't imagine what that must have been like.
Yeah. I needed some time to process it. I took a couple of days before I called her back. And my parents are divorced, so I actually called my dad in the meantime. Yeah. And just said, hey, Dad, why did nobody tell me this? I'm grown. I have my own child. I mean, nobody told me this. So, he had found out from my sister when I left what I was doing, and he had been emotionally wrecked as soon as he found out what I was doing, because he'd never told anybody in his entire life that he was with her the day that she went to go get an abortion for me. And he just said, there was never a right time. Like, when do you tell your daughter that you intended to abort her? And then he said that they thought it was their only option. He had just graduated high school. People were like, you're too young to have a baby. You can't do this. And they didn't have enough money for the abortion. So he went and pawned a family heirloom, and it happened to be a shotgun.
Oh, my goodness.
So a pawned shotgun was what was intended to pay
the death penalty
for me. Yeah.
That was going to fund your death. And he said, you're here making this movie.
Yep.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was really a lot of confirmation for my dad too, because he was kind of an in-between believer, but it sealed the deal for him to say, this is just evidence to me that God is real and he has a plan from the moment of conception, and that you are evidence of that.
Well, you just heard from Ashley Bratcher, the star of Unplanned, which is still playing in theaters now in April of 2019. Just go to Unplanned Movie. and you can find out more about where it might be playing near you. We're actually talking about LifeFest Film Festival, and we're going to have some of the stars of Unplanned at LifeFest. We'll talk about the movie and how that knowledge and information that it gives out can be put to use now here in California. As I said, here in California, Planned Parenthood owns the politics of California. That's just reality. Planned Parenthood owns the Democrat Party. They're the party of unlimited abortion. They're now the party of euthanasia. They believe in, quote, choice, in killing, using medicine to kill. It's a serious situation. So when we come back, we're going to talk about LifeFest, the overarching vision of LifeFest, some of the other films you're going to see this year. Make sure you go to life-affirming.com. That's life-affirming.com to get your tickets now and be a part of changing Hollywood and the culture. That's life-affirming.com.
Life Matters continues after this.
Hi, I'm Kevin Sorbo, and I was very excited when I heard about LifeFest Film Festival. LifeFest is the film festival dedicated to showcasing films that affirm the intrinsic worth of innocent human life and the profound significance of each life. One seemingly insignificant person can in fact change the whole world in which he or she lives. That one singular life ends up being of vital importance. I'm so glad to hear that you are cherishing that in this film festival and are committed to artfully and creatively protect the lives of those who can't possibly promote themselves.
Life Film Fest is dedicated to bring the message of life to Hollywood and to our culture. Go to life-affirming.com and get your tickets now. That's life-affirming.com.
Find out about the exciting cultural change impacting Hollywood. Go to life-affirming.com. And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. I'm going to take some liberty and talk about LifeFest a little bit further and some of the deeper reasons LifeFest is important. You know, I'm a Christian. I make no bones about that. I'm kind of a C.S. Lewis Christian. I have all of his books, both the English literature books. He was a professor of English literature at Oxford and wrote extensively. He also wrote incredible works on Christian theology and really apologetics. Those are excellent books. He wrote some fantasies, children fantasies, the Narnia stories, and he actually wrote science fiction too. But he knew the power of storytelling. And Lewis really got to the point because he points out that through good literature, I can be 1,000 men and still remain myself. That's a powerful insight, and that's what good movies do. It allows you to appreciate life from the perspective of another person, to see that life is bigger than you and your immediate feelings, that there's people involved. And if you understand the conflict that people go through, you're going to come away with some understanding. Now, I have acted, as you know, I used to teach literature. I believe that film is actually a form of literature, to be honest. It's a form of literature, and good literature has formulas. There's certain beats. There's certain ways to tell a story. There's what's known as the story arc. That's good storytelling. And good films do that. Good films get those messages across. And that's what Hollywood does so well. That's why we like watching stories or hearing stories. It meets something deeper in our person. Jesus, in fact, people look at Jesus. He was a different kind of rabbi, the scripture said. He did not teach like the Pharisees did. In fact, Jesus, if you look at when he quotes scripture, he would quote scriptures to the Pharisees, rebuking them because they didn't fully understand the scriptures. He had to explain it. He would use scriptures on demons, telling them how it really is. It is written, and he would explain that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. He had to rebuke the devil himself using scripture. But with normal people, what did he do? He told stories. Now, I've done documentaries. In some ways, documentaries are straightforward. I like them a lot. They give you lots of information. We've got some documentaries at this coming LifeFest, but we've got a lot of stories. And the reason there's stories is that stories allow you to go deeper. And that's what Jesus did in the parables. And if you go back, Jesus, he actually didn't explain a lot of them. I know of only one right off that he explained, and that was the parable of the seed and the soil. And he only explained it because his disciples begged him to please explain what it meant. Storytelling, and whether that be in books are in movies, and good movies tell good stories, compelling stories. Storytelling goes deeper. And we want to do that with the issue of life. We want our culture and we want our friends and neighbors to really understand the deeper issues. So that's why Taking Back Hollywood's really important, and taking back storytelling. So we've been talking about LifeFest Film Festival, held in Hollywood each year at the Raleigh Studios, right across from Paramount Studios. Raleigh Studios are the former Chaplin Studios. As you know, Charlie Chaplin is the guy. He kind of put Hollywood on the map in his silent films. But this is Hollywood history, and we're taking Hollywood back through LifeFest. It's the film festival dedicated to those films which honor the significance of a single life, and in particular, the seemingly insignificant life. You know, that's usually the ones that you kill. Well, we don't need this kid. Well, we can't afford this baby. Or no one's going to want them. Or they'll probably be abused. Or they're a racial minority. Planned Parenthood's got a lot of good reasons for killing. And usually it's by saying this is insignificant. But every life is significant. That's the motto of LifeFest. So this year, Raleigh Studios, Hollywood, California, May the 4th. Go to lifefilmfest.com. In addition to Unplanned, we're going to have some of the stars of Unplanned there talking about it. We're also going to have a teaser for an upcoming film, Roe v. Wade. It's the story of the Roe v. Wade decision, and it stars several famous names. One is John Voight. Corbin Burnsen's another, and other faces you're going to recognize. But that is Roe versus Wade, a great film that's coming up. You know, film festivals are designed, usually you don't know and hear about the films because they're designed to release at film festivals and then get talked about. My wife teases me, well, nobody's heard of those films. Well, that's because it's a film festival. So when you come to a film festival, you're part of cutting-edge culture. These are the films you want to get out. There's also a lot of short films that we show. Young and rising filmmakers, we want to give them a chance to come to Hollywood and learn how to be involved in the industry and tell good films, life-affirming films. Another film, and you know about it already, hopefully, is Gosnell. We're going to have some of the folks from Gosnell there and talk about the film and its making. Several folks you already know. Nick Searcy, a good friend, he directed the film and he also stars in it. Dean Cain is in the film. And Alfonso Rachel, and those of you who follow LifeFest know that Alfonso, the actor and raconteur and musician, Alfonso is a frequent host at LifeFest Film Festival. So that's the first weekend of May. May 3rd and 4th, we actually have events on the 2nd and the 5th. But if you want to go to lifefilmfest.com and get your tickets, find out what's going on in Hollywood and how you can impact the culture for life. Because every life is significant. Every life does matter.
To follow Life Matters on all social media and to subscribe to the Life Matters podcast, go to lifematters.life, where you will find everything you need to know to share life, culture, and the battle of ideas with everyone you care about. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life. Wherever you are in the nation, you can find out more at National Right to Life. You can find vital pro-life information and also find the access to your state and local Right to Life affiliate. Get informed and get involved.